Welcome back to another episode of the Digital Wrap Up. My name is Riley, and I'm the host, and I'm the CEO and Digital Director of Harden Digital and Design. As you can see, if you're watching the YouTube channel, I am in my brand new podcast studio. Finally took the time to set up the studio at the office up in Tipton, Indiana, and now we're here for our first episode in the new area. And if you didn't know, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or anything like that, the Digital Wrap Up is now on YouTube as well. So you can check out the new studio just by searching at Harden Digital on YouTube, just youtube.com/at Harden Digital. And you can check out the new studio. And here's another look from a different angle. Have this awesome banner behind me. Got that for sponsoring a pickleball tournament last weekend, and we got to keep the banner, which was pretty awesome. So, yeah, excited to be here in this new space. It's kind of the area that we set out in the new office from the very beginning to be a podcast studio, and it's not completely done. If you're watching, you can see it's a little dark, kind of don't have overhead lighting right now. Well, we do, but it's those fluorescent lights and they're giving off a really bad buzz, so I didn't want to have that be picked up by the mic. I did some testing, and it's the mic and the filter kind of drown out most of it, but I could hear it a little bit, so I just said, you know what, we'll deal with it this week, have just a couple of ring lights going and go from there. But anyways, this week's episode, I wanted to talk about something that's I kind of talk about with my clients frequently, and that's social media analytics. So at the end of each month, Harden Digital and Design provides all of our social media clients a analytics report that kind of breaks down what happened over the past month on across all of their channels, really. So it's just a nice print. It's a nice PDF that's generated by our social media software, which we use Agora Pulse here at Harden Digital and Design. This is not a sponsored post or sponsored reading or anything, but just letting you know what we use, and we love it here. It's awesome. It's the best tool that I've used, and so I think one of the coolest parts about it is this analytics report that we generate at the end of each month. And so when we provide that analytics report to our clients, especially our new clients, a lot of times there's some questions about, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? What should we really be looking at? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today is what's that key metric or the top, 3 key metrics that you should be looking at when, or really considering when you're looking at this analytics report or whatever analytics report that you use for your social media. And before we get into that, I just wanted to, as always, go over some housekeeping things. I touched on the big one is the new podcast studio, which, last week I launched the podcast on YouTube, so that was a big one. Now we're in a new space. That's another big one. I can't promise I'll have any big updates next week in terms or related to the podcast or anything like that. But this week, wanted to just do a quick touch base. I know everything's still kind of way up in the air with Twitter and what's going on there, but not a whole lot has happened since last week's episode in terms of major developments or major changes to the platform. And so just wanted to do a quick touch base there. I think somebody replied to a Facebook post last night that we posted on the Harden Digital Facebook, which is just at Harden Digital, if you want to go find it, talking about all of the Twitter posts, or not the Twitter posts, but the changes of Twitter, what's happening, is it going to break, blah, blah, blah. And there are some bugs out there that are happening, which I think is kind of expected when you cut your workforce by 50% or more. But there's Twitter's still up and running as of November 23rd at 9:50 a.m. It's still up and running. But I think the big news that kind of shook the Twitter world was a poll that Elon Musk ran asking for feedback, whether it was true feedback or not, on if he should reinstate Donald Trump's Twitter account. And quote unquote, the people voted, and Elon Musk claims that he's going to reinstate Donald Trump's Twitter account. So we'll see if that actually happens. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of new shakeups or major developments. There was a brief period, I think Thursday maybe, people were really concerned about Twitter going down. Everybody posting all their alternate social media platforms and all this stuff. I think there was a genuine concern that like Thursday night, Twitter was going to completely crash and we would wake up Friday, maybe it was Wednesday night, one of those two, and we would wake up the next morning and Twitter would be gone. That didn't happen. Like I said, it's still here today, but yeah, not a whole lot new. Not a whole lot of new things developing on the Twitter side. They're still pushing back the Twitter Blue subscription service, and we'll see if that actually re-rolls out back next week. I think he said November 29th. So next Tuesday. I don't know. I can't do math right now. It's the 23rd. So sometime next week is when he initially said it'll relaunch again. So other than that, Twitter's still kicking. There have been some bug reports. I think Hannah mentioned to me that there was basically like the replies were showing at the top when you clicked on a tweet, and then you had to scroll up to read through the replies, and the post was when you scrolled up. So I haven't experienced that, but it kind of funky if that's the case. I think that's been one of the major bugs reported. It's like kind of backwards from what you normally get when scrolling through replies. But yeah, we'll see. It's alive and, well, I don't know if I can say well right now, but it's still alive. So now that we have, I think I'll probably just do a Twitter segment every single week to give the latest updates. So yeah, moving on back to kind of the topic at hand today, and that is social media analytics and which key metric you should look at when going through an analytics report or just looking at the analytics natively in each of the apps, or each of the platforms, because each of the platforms does offer native analytics. You just have to kind of navigate to find them. So, Twitter has their own analytics, Instagram has their own analytics, Facebook has their own, TikTok even has their own. So you can really do it even if you don't have a software like we do with Agora Pulse. You can do it on each of the individual platforms. But if you are using a platform or a software like Agora Pulse, Hootsuite, Sprout Social, all these different ones out there, they usually can combine them into one easy to read report instead of going to 4 or 5 different individual platforms. So it's the end of the month or the beginning of a new month, and you get an analytics report from Harden Digital and Design breaking down all this information from the past month for each of the platforms. What's the number one thing that you should be looking at? And this is I think, highly debated topic in the social media manager social media agency world, is what are the most important key metrics? And to me, it's always been engagement and engagement rate. And that's, the number of likes, the number of comments, shares, people tagging you in replies or tagging you in posts that they share. It's anything that's users on the platforms are doing to interact with your page, your profile, whatever it may be. It's the reason I think that that's the number one metric that you should be looking at is because that really shows that the content that you're posting or the way that you're interacting with social media and with your followers or non-followers is hitting home. People like your post, they're sharing your post because it's just good content. It's funny content. It really hits home with the user, whether It's funny, relevant to them, just a good resource. There's so many different reasons that people engage with your post, but I think that's the number one thing that really can show that your efforts on social media are paying off. And so that engagement rate is something that I always say is the number one metric that you should be looking at. um, it's widely debated. I think especially in the for the people who don't necessarily know the ins and outs of social media, that hire a social media agency like ours to kind of run their social media for them. They're like out people outside of that world who aren't constantly in social media always have the thought that the number of followers is super 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 important. And that's, if we're not getting 50 new followers a month on Instagram or 100 new followers a month on Twitter, whatever it may be, then our social media is failing. And that's just not the case at all. um, yes, followers are obviously a good thing to have, and seeing that increase in followers always feels good. There used to be some different things. Well, I guess there still are. Like, once you hit a certain number of followers, it used to be 10,000 followers on Instagram that you could put a link in your stories on, when you post a story, so you can direct people to go check out this podcast, for instance, and drop a link to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your website, whatever it may be. So there are some, and I think that's true with TikTok. It's either 1,000 followers or 10,000 followers. I'm not sure. I'm not as big into the TikTok world, but there are some incentives to reach a certain number of followers. So I understand that sentiment that followers are super important. But I've seen so many big accounts that have tons, literally thousands and thousands of followers, and then you scroll through their posts and they're not getting a single like on any of their tweets. They're getting 10 likes on an Instagram post and no comments, no replies, none of that stuff. None of the engagement that we were just talking about. So when people say followers is the number one metric to look at, I just kind of laugh, because it's absolutely not. It's such a vanity metric that people are so concerned about, but it's something that in the long run, if you're not posting good content, you're not engaging with those followers, then followers really don't mean anything to you. So it's all about how you can create that content to engage with those followers, and that's really the tell of if you're doing well, doing the right things on social media. So I'd say engagement rate by far, number one. The next up, not followers. That's kind of on down the road some more. Next up at number two is impressions and reach. And impressions and reach can kind of be confusing, because to a lot of people it means the same thing. But to people in the social media world, there is a difference. Impressions is the total number of times a post was seen. Before I get into that, impressions, the total number of times a post was seen, and reach is the number of people that a post has reached, or the number of people that have seen your post. So those two things often are intermixed in the world of social media analytics, especially for people who don't know the difference. But there is a slight difference that I'm going to elaborate here on. So say you post something on Facebook, and somebody sees it on their timeline, and then they share it out, and then one of their, or maybe their friend also shares that same post, and it re-shows up in their timeline, 3 hours later or something like that. That's going to count as 2, maybe 3 impressions, because that person saw it multiple times, 2 or 3 times in their timeline, or they went to your profile and saw it, whatever the case may be. But only going to count as one reach because it's one person that saw it. That one individual saw the post, but they saw it 3 times. So it's one reach, 3 impressions. So generally speaking, impressions tend to be higher for the most part than reach if you're looking at a side-by-side comparison. And, like Twitter mainly deals with just impressions. When you actually get into their bigger analytics, it just shows impressions. I think you can click on each individual tweet and it'll show you the number of people that it reached and the number of impressions. But I think for the most part, they just deal with impressions. I'm not sure exactly why they do that, but anyways, to kind of wrap up that conversation, there is a difference between reach and impressions, but kind of combining those two into the same category for what analytics you should be looking at. I put that at number 2 because that's kind of also a good way to kind of gauge how good your content is, whether it's reaching a lot of people or not. Because if it's good content, people are going to like it, people are going to hopefully share it, or people are going to comment on it. And all 3 of those things kind of tell the platforms, okay, yes, this piece of content, this post, this video, whatever it may be, is good enough for this many of people to like it, or these people to comment on it, or this person shared it. So then they start to kind of, the algorithms start to kind of pick up on that and start trying to push it to other relevant audiences, whether it's your followers or followers of the people who did like it or share it, whatever it may be, because they do have suggested posts. And I haven't seen it as much lately, but on Facebook, like, it'll show so and so liked this post, and it's kind of just a suggested post for you, even though you don't follow that page or that person, but one of your friends liked their post or commented on the post. And it definitely does that on Twitter still. I know that for sure. So that's kind of why, if your content is engaging and people are interacting with it, your impressions and your reach are just going to go up as well. And something else to kind of think about beyond the engagement and it kind of ties into the reach and impressions is when you are going and creating your content and scheduling it. Well, we schedule most of our content that we push out for clients. And when you're going in and scheduling content, or you're just thinking of creating a post on the fly, whatever it may be, the time and day that you post does actually matter. There's best times to post on all the different platforms, really. And each platform varies, I would say. Facebook traditionally, like, this is just my experience with my clients and our own pages at Harden Digital and Design. The best time on Facebook tends to be 7:30 to 9:30, like at night, and I think that's because people are just sitting around late at night or early evening, whatever it may be. They're at home scrolling through their phones. They just finished dinner, or they're just sitting down watching TV. And, we can't sit down and watch TV without being on our phones. I'm guilty of it. I think everybody's guilty of it. So they're just kind of doom scrolling in those hours late at night. So Facebook is big there. I mean, all of them can be big at that time frame, but like, I found more success posting on Instagram during the day. I think user base is more active on Instagram during the day, and it's just, if we post between 9 and 2, we generally get more engagement on our posts than we would if we waited till 9 o'clock at night to post on Instagram. I don't know if that's the algorithm working, where they're not pushing as many new posts to people at 9:30 at night, or it's, people aren't as on Instagram as much throughout the day. So I'm kind of talking myself out of this, but they're trying to catch up with uh, all the posts throughout the day, from 3 to 5 hours ago when it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. And so they're seeing all of those posts now because that's what they're doing. So they're not seeing the post that you just posted 5 minutes ago. So again, it really is based on each individual platform and each individual account. And the best part about it is like Facebook specifically, if you're managing a Facebook page, they will show you the best days and times. They create a graph for you in the Insights tab that shows you the best days and times to be posting on specific to your Facebook page. And that's another thing that I love about Agora Pulse is that it breaks it down for each platform, specifically for your accounts too, which days and times kind of get them. You can track it by impressions, the best time and day to post because of impressions / reach, or based on engagement. So really taking a look at that, I would almost put that maybe in its own category at number 3 of the kind of metrics to look at, because it does play a big factor into how well your content does on social media. So we're going to go with 2 as the impressions and reach, and then 3 we're going to, screw it, we're going to put in day and time to be posting. So I didn't really have that on my list, but I kind of talked myself into putting that in there because it really is important to factor and consider when you're creating a social media strategy or planning out content for the week or for the month, whatever it may be. So moving on to the list, I guess we're now at number 4 is I would say, I think the amount of business that you bring in, and this can be hard with like referrals or conversions because you can't always 100% track, how much website traffic came in. Website traffic you can, but like you can't always track that this customer that came into your store did so because they saw your post on social media, or this person bought a product because they saw your post on social media. So it's hard to kind of track that. But in terms of the word of mouth type of things, but website conversions and referrals, you can definitely track. And especially if you're trying to sell products, if that's what your business is about, if you're selling things, then yes, that is important, because at the end of the day, like, yes, social media is something you just want to be on, sharing, posting about your product. But I think at the end of the day, everyone has the general understanding that social media helps sell your products, helps your business grow, moves you forward. So you want to be able to track and really see, okay, are my efforts on social media paying off? Are we getting new clients if we're a service-based industry? Are we selling more products if we're in the B2C, the business to consumer side of business? So it can be tricky to kind of track that if you're more of people coming in and buying things in store, or like if you're a service or B2B and you sell a service to companies like what Harden Digital and Design does, it can be harder to track those type of things. But if you're really curious and you want to know, start asking people, hey, how'd you hear about us? And if you start hearing, oh, well, my friend shared your post on Facebook and I saw it, so I wanted to stop in and buy this. Or, hey, my buddy shared your post and I'm looking for a new website. And, that happened to me the other day, or more like a month or so ago. But somebody gave me a call out of the blue and said, hey, I'm friends with your dad and he shared your business post about building a new website. So I wanted to reach out and connect and see if you could help me. I'm planning this new business and I know I need a new website to kind of kick things off. So let's talk. So it's not always just tracking link clicks or conversions and traffic from social media. There's other ways, and it's really just about having conversations um, and asking people. Quick question, getting feedback from people in store or over the phone, whatever it may be. It's worth the 2 seconds to ask that. So that's just different ways to kind of measure your success on social media. So I put that at number 4. It can be a little confusing and a little harder to track. Like the Agora Pulse reports that we run don't necessarily track that, but if you have somebody, or if you do it yourself, tracking things on Google Analytics and all that different type of stuff to see where you're generating website traffic from, it can be done. So moving on, I think now is when I'll throw in followers at number 5. We'll keep it at 5 to keep it easy, and this is where I'd probably drop in followers. I almost don't even want to put followers on the list because, again, it's just such a vanity metric, and people get so caught up in followers. Oh, I have 10,000 followers. Cool, but are any of them converting to customers, or any of them actually engaging with your content? Like, it really, and there's so many people that pay for followers, that pay for bots to follow them, and then get up to, I just keep using 10,000 as just a standard thing, but like, oh, we have 5,000 followers and we got 1,000 new followers this month because we paid for them, or whatever it may be. And then 3 months down the road, Twitter does a cleanse of bot or fake accounts again, and you lose all of your followers. And then it's like, well, what happened? I thought we had all these followers. Why is our social media failing if we just lost 300 followers in a month? And it's like, well, that just goes to show your followers didn't really mean anything anyways, because they were all just bots. And it really, I don't know, like, to be open and transparent, the Harden Digital and Design social media accounts don't have thousands and thousands of followers. We have probably 400 to 600 followers, 400 to 700 followers generally across the board on all the different platforms. I think LinkedIn is leading the way, and then Instagram. I don't have the numbers. It probably would have been helpful if I had the numbers pulled up right in front of me, but we're doing well and succeeding, and the business is growing and all of this, and we're getting engagement on social media even with just a few hundred followers. We're not at the 1,000 mark or multiple thousands or anything, and I'm completely fine with that, because 1, we've pretty much grown organically, and 2, we never had a foothold in any location to kind of be a part of a community, and that can be such a huge factor on especially Facebook and Instagram. When you're kind of embedded in a local community and get your name out there locally, people will follow you more. And 3, we're a service or a business to business, so it's a different landscape than if you're trying to sell products, especially locally. But yeah, I'm not mad that we only have a few hundred followers on all these different platforms, because I know that we are getting engagement. People share our posts, people like our posts, we get comments. Like I just said, somebody commented on the Facebook post about Twitter, which is ironic. And then he went on to complain about Elon Musk, and it's like, well, I guess there's a reason you're commenting on this on Facebook and not Twitter. But side tangent, I think I have at least 1 or 2 of those every episode, but it's back to the followers thing. It's not important that you have X amount of followers, or if you gain X amount of followers per month. That's not the biggest thing to worry about. And I know it's hard to get over that fact, because so many people do push the importance of followers, but I don't think they understand that followers in the long run don't mean a whole lot to you if they're not converting to becoming customers, or if they're not sharing your post, if they're not engaged with you, they're kind of just dead weight. But oh, it looks good when people first look at your profile. I understand that people want to have a number of followers. It's kind of a bragging point for a lot of people that we have X number of followers and our competitors don't, or whatever it may be. So try to, moving forward, if you can try to keep that in mind when you're looking at your analytics. Don't get too caught up in it if you don't get 30 new followers a month on Instagram, but you're still getting a high engagement rate, then I think you're set still. You're still producing good content. You're putting out good content. And yeah, it is what it is. I can say this. I've said this, I think, to every single client the very first month that we put together an analytics report. I think I mentioned this because that's the first thing is, how many new followers did we get the first month working with you? And it's like, yes, generally speaking, if you have high engagement rate, you have a higher number of reach and impressions, generally speaking, you're going to have an increase in followers too. But it doesn't always work out that way for multiple different reasons, including bot accounts getting deleted or whatever it may be. But generally speaking, if you increase those first two key metrics that I was talking about, followers tend to increase from there. So, yeah, it's hard to not get caught up in followers, but moving forward, hey, try to keep that in the back of your mind if you don't see a huge increase or a steady increase in followers. So let's wrap it up. Let's see if I can remember these now. Engagement, number 1. Reach and impressions, number 2. Day and time to be posting. I know it's not something like that says, okay, yeah, you posted and did well because, or your social media did well because you posted X and Y dates and times, but it's just something to look at when you are going through the rest of your metrics. 4, conversions, and 5, followers. Those are probably my top 5 key metrics to look at when you are looking at your social media analytic reports, which you should be doing at the end of every month. If you're more obsessed with it, do a weekly report. I think I run weekly reports for Harden Digital and Design social media accounts just because I like to know. But I don't do that for all of my clients, and I don't overwhelm them by sending them a weekly report either. I give them a new analytics report on the second day of each month, second or third. If it falls on a weekend, whatever. But yeah, those are my top 5, and I think that kind of wraps up my conversation about key metrics, key analytics to look at. I did want to mention something. We were talking about TikTok, and I mentioned earlier that not the biggest on the TikTok game. By far, kind of the platform still that I have the most trouble with being consistent and posting. But I have some good news. For me, I'm super excited. I had my first TikTok that reached over 10,000 views on my personal account. And if you can see here, which another plug for the YouTube, check us out, youtube.com/@HardenDigital. And you can see, well, now you can see, there it is, my first TikTok, over 13.6 thousand views. So, I'm made it a viral video on TikTok and got 13,000 views, and I posted it, today's Wednesday, I posted it Monday night, and majority of them came Tuesday during the day. It's kind of slowed down overnight, but I hit 10,000 views within 24 hours, and I was super pumped about that. So, yay for TikTok. I finally broke the 10,000. I don't know why. I just like 10,000, whether it's because it goes from showing the exact number of views of 1,198 to 10.6, or in this case, 13.6. I don't know. To me, that's cool. So, yay for me. I'm excited. It's on my personal account. We'll see if I when we opened the office, I started posting more on the business account, but it's just so hit or miss. It's not one of those platforms that we're as consistent as we need to be on. So maybe I'll start posting clips from the podcast. And since I'm recording the videos, it's here for me. But yeah, I think that's just another point, completely off topic. But just last week in my networking meeting, I just always try and emphasize using video as much as possible. And that's, I think, why I kind of kicked off this video recording of the podcast as well. So TikTok is huge. Instagram Reels are very big if you are on Instagram. It's funny, I haven't posted that exact video on Instagram Reels yet, so I can't do a side-by-side comparison of that video on TikTok versus Instagram, but maybe I'll do that today and kind of report back next week on how it performed. Generally speaking, I've done better on Instagram Reels on my business or personal page, but yeah, we'll give it a try. So I think to kind of wrap things up, it is the day before Thanksgiving, Wednesday, November 23rd. Kind of wrapping up here at the office after this and hoping to spend some time with family this weekend. Not hoping to, I know I'm going to. But, hopefully everybody listening or watching has a great Thanksgiving. Take some time off, enjoy some nice food. Definitely watch a lot of football. One of my favorite parts, of course, about Thanksgiving is watching football. And yeah, just hope you have a nice, relaxing Thanksgiving. Stay safe, stay warm. It's kind of warmed up where I am. Warmed up as in 50. But yeah, have a great Thanksgiving, and I will be back next week with another episode of the Digital Wrap Up.